Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Fifth Paradigm podcast of the Patriot Review. And our episode today is a little different because we are joined here by our two co-founders, that is Archit Gautam and Avirat Parekh. And along with him, we also have the former president of the Student Council of the Jindal School of International Affairs, that is Madhav Grover. And welcome everybody to the Fifth Paradigm.
Yeah. Hello, Madhav. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Madhav reads law at Warwick University now. It's so nice of you to take time out. So my first question to you right off the bat is about, this disease that's plaguing the youth of today. They're called MacBook Marxists or, MacBook Mafia. They sort of have this own narrative that they try pushing in this direction. What are your views on them? Because these intellectual terrorists think that they're trying to create a new India, a dynamic India. But I think it's misrepresentation of the word dynamic India. What do you think?
See, first of all, Avirat, I would like to first of all congratulate all of you in starting this beautiful initiative. I think it is very, very good that youth is getting involved in such matters and talking and keeping the talk alive. Second of all, I would not call them a disease, but actually I would call them something which is there. I think MacBook Marxist is something which you can only see in universities where intellectual crowd is there. I feel that the whole concept of Marxist MacBook Marxists, as you call them, is because people who say that they know their privilege, people who say that they understand privilege are the actual ones who forget their privilege, in my opinion. They forget their privilege, they go ahead and say that, we are Marxists. See, I understand that reading about Marxism is very important. I have also read about it. I've read his book, the Communist Manifesto, and I've also read certain readings. So it's good to be informed. And it's also good to propagate certain ideologies when you believe in them. But when it comes to propagation, there are certain times when people from that spectrum forget that they are also here to express opinion, not to impose it. And that is a very big misconception which happens specifically with certain criteria of these MacBook Marxists, which makes them very problematic. Being a Marxist is not a problematic thing. Being a MacBook Marxist is also not a problematic thing unless an individual is imposing their opinion. And various times it happens that they impose their opinion on people, and a lot of people who don't know how to shape their opinion get embroiled into teachings by such people, and they think that it is cool. It is something which is, which gives them a certain amount of clout in a university. So they get embroiled in such things. They forget to see and read in between of lines. And that is, I think, which is the biggest problem with such MacBook Marxists, as you call them.
Now, my next question to you, Madhav, is that since you've served as the president of the JSIA Council and have also been on the council for 2 consecutive years, first as a general secretary, then as the president. Now, what are your views on understanding youth in politics in India, especially in private universities? Do you feel that we require a change from the current way of progressing, or what is it? And what have your learnings been through this entire period?
I think, Madhav, it is very nice to come it from you, because you were also a member of the student council. You were also the cultural secretary for a year, and it was very good serving with you. But when it comes to youth in politics, I think it is very, very important at a time like this to have youth in politics and also have different opinions come at a platform. I feel that when it comes to politics in private university, I think it is very important, especially in private universities. So, usually I see that when we look at politics or student politics, it usually is, synonym with DU politics or JNU politics or politics of, Jadavpur University or some other state university, which is on the national front. But oftentimes we don't get the point that, yes, at that moment in those universities, student politics is important because they are, fighting with an administration which is led by the government. So they have to have a face. But when it comes to private universities also, I think it is very important to have a student voice. Because government universities are often, in my opinion, because I've been in a private university, it can be different because I've never been in a government university. But in private universities also, there are various problems which are faced by a lot of students. And if they don't have the right platform, they cannot solve them. They need to have a platform, they need to have a voice, they need to have somebody who's listening to them and talking their talk to the administration, because the administration can be very tough. And I think you also know about it. So when it comes to that, I think it is very important. And I feel that, there's a very important example which we can see on why it is very important. When it comes to a certain thing which I was seeing in IP University, in the Indra Prastha University, which is a state university, but it also has certain schools which are, public-private partnership. In such universities, you see that the university is imposing certain measures on students, and the students don't have a voice. When it comes to exams also, when our exam schedule in Jindal University was being scheduled, we were having talks, we were having consolidations, we were having meetings, we were having consultations with everybody, with all the stakeholders involved. And then we reached a conclusion, and that conclusion was taken. But when it comes to such universities, no consultations happen. There's an administration who takes a decision, and everybody has to bear the consequences. I think that is something which we have to avoid. So that is why I think youth in politics is very important. And when it comes to India, I think in a country like India, it is especially important because we have so many voices, we have so many religions, we have so many cultures, we have so many things which the students have in their mind, and we have to cover them all. So I think in India, for example, it is, I think, very, very important to have students involved in decision making and representation. I don't see it as politics, but I see it as representation, which is very important in various decisions which a university takes for the students.
Yeah, and you make a very remarkable point, because we're a young India. We're an India full of ambition, aspiration. So yeah, that's remarkable. Archit?
Yeah, so you mentioned some things about JNU and DU. So my first question would be, how is it really different from being a president in a private university and being a president in a public university where the stakes are much higher in terms of political presence? So what would you think about that?
So I have not had a lot of interaction with how the DSU and everything operates, but I've seen it from a very far-fetched lens. I think the one very important example is that the DSU and other student unions in public universities are very hands-on, and they have a lot of clout. For example, in our university, which is separate from DU, we get invited into consultations for every small or big decision, which is a very good thing. DUSU, I don't think it happens in such a manner, which happens in private universities like Jindal. But when it comes to clout, so if, for example, if Jindal University has to hold a protest about something, and they say that you don't have to go to class for 2 days, it will never work. And I say that with a lot of caution. A lot of people will not follow the council. A lot of people will not have the faith, and it will be very difficult to get them through. But when it comes to DUSU, it will happen in 1 second. Even their teachers union has, I think, a lot of clout when it comes to that. Second thing, which is very considerably different, is that our politics is much more cleaner. And I also say that with a lot of caution, because cleaner in the sense that, we have a very, very nice election process. We have an election process that goes for a week. We don't, litter purposes with our majority of our council. My council was all in the electronic media. Nothing happened in the print. So
Next second.
So elections are much cleaner. When I see my council elections also, it was much more in a very laid out manner, if I must say. We had a very significant process. It was very well laid out. I think Madhav can agree also that we had a specific time where we could give our speeches. We had a specific time where we can hold public forums. We had a specific sense of, who to meet, when to meet, how to conduct elections, how to conduct. We had a very strict policy against hate speech. We had a very strict policy against fake news. And we had a very robust election commission in place, which works their absolute best to conduct an election. When it comes to do so, it becomes a little more messier. I see that there's a lot of violence. Not that Jindal doesn't have a problem with violence among students, but I think in student council elections it doesn't happen. So it's very good. There is no booth capturing or any other bad election practice which happens, which I have seen personally not happening. If it used to happen before I joined campus, it is a separate matter. And I've also seen that it is much more cleaner in the sense that how people conduct each other. I've seen that the candidates are also very, not hostile. They're also very civil amongst each other. When they do a debate also, they're very civil. They always say that whosoever wins, it is very good. It's for the best. There's no name calling. There's no, sloganeering against each other. So I think that is very, very important. There's no negative hate campaigning. So that is one very important. When it comes to operations also, I've told about the differences. Another operation difference, I think, is that in general, we still don't have a presence of political parties affiliating to candidates, which is also a very good thing. So we have independents running and they run for elections, and if they win, they work as independents. They are not, they don't have to talk about their political ideologies, which is very important. In other universities, what happens is political ideologies and political parties take the best of students. So they get involved in campuses like NSCY, ABVP, CYSS, and that also becomes problematic for a campus when when we see the whole scene and in the public universities, which it's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. So
yeah, so I had a follow-up just
okay.
So you mentioned about the influence and how it differs from a private and a public university. Public being much more. Where do you think we should draw the line on student politics? Because we see things like events in JNU going too farther, and where do we draw the line? And at some point in time, I think we can all agree that student politics is very important, but personally, I don't think no one actually studies in JNU, even the ones who want to can't, because it's so volatile. So
yeah, and I'd just
draw the line.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that by saying that where do we draw the line? Because today we have someone say screaming Bharat ki barbadi tak jang rahegi, and Afzal Guru hum tumhare whatever. So I mean, it's a tricky situation, right? Like, what kind of messaging are we communicating? What do we have that's going around? Or what do you have to say about that?
I think this reminds me of a very important incident that happened in Jindal University. I think Avirat was also there with me. When Pulwama happened, we held a candlelight vigil. So I was in this group. I specifically remember it was run by APDP, which is Association for People and Disappeared People in Jammu and Kashmir. So they decided to hold a sort of a vigilante group to disturb the vigil. And we got hold of it. I remember I was just a general secretary then. I told my council that this is something which is going to happen, and we took certain cognizance of it. We also told the security guards at that time that certain things can happen, so we should be prepared, because it was very difficult to catch hold of individuals who can who might disrupt it. But I was very proud to see that in our university there were I think a crowd of 500 people standing on that on our flagpole, and saying and standing shoulder to shoulder for our armed forces. It was very beautiful. Those people did come there. They distributed those pamphlets of what army is conducting and how they are not agreeing with glorifying certain the people in the armed forces or what is happening in the university. And I could see that Jindal University didn't take it well. They were very mindful of the opinions those people presented. They never created a disturbance with violence. They created a disturbance with their opinions. So there was a very valued debate which started. So I think that is very important. That is where we draw the line. The line is drawn at violence. If you have an opinion, you can express that opinion. But if that opinion is seditious in matter, then the courts will decide it. It's as simple as that. But no matter what opinion is expressed, I don't feel that in any campus, be it private or public, there should be violence. First. Second, when it comes to the matters of JNU, see, when such sloganeering happens, that is just fueling a fire which nobody can control. When you say such sloganeering, people get very disturbed. So my opinion is, if you have problems, if you have criticism on anything, you be very mindful of how you are expressing that opinion. And then if you say anything which is seditious, then there's a court, there's law, and they will take you into account. As simple as that. And that is what we saw in JNU also. That people who were making such seditious comments or whatever they were saying there, they were taken into account, and there were police investigations which happened. And that is very important, because if you have problems with how certain things are happening in this country, you are free to express. You have freedom of expression. It exists. It is in the fundamental rights. It can never be removed. It was only removed in 1970s by Indira Gandhi, but now it is that is we are way past that. So that is never going to happen again. If we have freedom of expression, we have freedom of speech, you can say anything, but you also have to be mindful. You cannot just go on saying certain things which are seditious. And being said that, I would also like to say one more thing. No individual, and I say that very cautiously, no individual decides what is seditious or not. That's for the court to decide. If you have any problem, if you think anybody is saying seditious matters or seditious things, you should go to the court. As an honorable citizen of this country, if you have any problem, you should go to the court. The court is somewhere which can, decide. They have the necessary means to decide on what speech is seditious or not. And if they decide something is seditious, that is the end of the day. That's it.
Okay. मैं एक अगला सवाल करना चाहूंगा आपको हिंदी में. ये हमने कभी किया नहीं है फिफ्थ पैराडाइम पर मैं आपको एक पूछना चाहूंगा कि हमारे देश के युवाओं को ऐसा क्या है जो हम प्रोत्साहन दे सकते हैं कि वो राजनीति में जरा ध्यान लगाएं, क्योंकि इस देश को राजनीतिक कार्यकर्ताओं की बहुत सख्त जरूरत है. जरूरत काफी ज्यादा है, और इतनी जरूरत है कि हम एक sort of deficit में चल रहे हैं. I mean, sorry for my Hindi not being very accurate.
No
but
problem.
what I'm trying to say is, at the end of the day, what is it that the youth of today need to factor? Because I think it's very crucial for the youth of today to be involved in Indian politics, because it's a hotbed for your nation and so on and so forth. What do you think?
See, I completely agree and echo with your facts. पहली चीज तो मैं ये बोलूंगा कि youth जो है, youth is not dumb. They listen to everything. The problem with the youth right now is it's misinformed or ill-informed, in the sense that they see one article and they believe that article. They forget that that article might be from a news channel which is supported by a certain political ideology or certain political group. My opinion is, the youth should form its own opinion. They should look at facts. For example, if a certain bill or if a certain law comes in place, first of all, how do you form an opinion on it? First, you read that bill. It can be 300 pages, it can be 30 pages, it can be 3 pages. First of all, you read that bill in plain text. If somebody is writing that bill, it is keeping in mind that people have to read it to understand it. Now, I would get a counter saying ki bhai, if the bill has certain things which I can't understand, I'm a layman or I'm an unpad, how do I understand it? Then what you do is you read the bill, and then you go to and then you read multiple opinions on it. You read the opinion of the left, you read the opinion of the right, you read the opinion of a realist, you read the opinion of a constitutional expert, you read opinions of everybody. You just don't read opinion of one person. Then after you read it, you make an informed choice, whether if you like their act or not. Right now, what we see in youth is they have a lot of energy, they have a lot of attention, they want to get involved, which is a very good thing. But the problem which is there is that they tend to forget that they also have to understand what they are standing for. There are so many times, I will give you a very important example here. So I was being taught by this very wonderful professor who used to teach me Chinese foreign policy in General University. So I was talking to her. She was involved in youth politics, and I also had a Spanish professor who was involved in JNU politics. So in her youth. So I was talking to her and I was like, ma'am, how was your experience? And she used to tell me that, Madhav, when the nuclear deal was happening, I was in JNU. And I went for the protests of the nuclear deal. I was so happy going for the protests. But after the protests were over, after the bill came, and after 2-3 years, I read the book, I read the bill, I read everything which that agreement had. And I was so shocked that I could ever support such a thing. She said that because there were so many people going there and so many false narratives being portrayed by certain political groups, I thought that this deal is very bad for us. So she went to the meeting. She held banners. She started cursing the government and everything. But after she read it, the plain text, she could form an opinion. I'm not saying her opinion was wrong to go and protest against it. I'm saying the fact that she never read what she's protesting for. She never got informed. That is something which is problematic. I think people, if they start reading and getting an opinion and then protesting a move, I'm with them. Very good. Kudos to you. You have a democratic right. You should do it. But if people are not reading a plain text of something they are standing for and going to protest or writing big articles on something which they have read from one particular post on Instagram and inciting the youth to go into protests or going against the protests, both of them are wrong. And that is what I think multiple political spectrums like to do. They like to, use that energy of the youth and try to foil them into believing what they want them to believe. I think the youth should be smart enough to believe what they want to believe and then get into politics.
Absolutely, Madhav. I completely agree with you where you said that people actually need to be informed and read all sorts of opinions before making their own opinion. Now,
Yes.
you also spoke of how we need to understand and need to read opinions of both sides of the political spectrum. That is the left
100%.
and the right. But so my next follow-up question on this from you will be that in universities, usually, especially private universities, I talk about, we see that most of the people try to show themselves as leftist intellectuals, right? But by the time they come out into the real world and they try and start understanding the nuances of politics as such, then they slowly and gradually start becoming realists or start to shift their ideology, political ideology, to the other side of the political spectrum. So now, why does this really happen? So what do you have to say about that?
This reminds me, Madhav, of a quote which my one professor told me in class one day, after class one. She told me that you are very dumb if you are not communist in your 20s, but if you are even more dumber if you don't realize that it is stupid in your 30s. As simple as that. That just suffices what I believe on it. I think people, even not just communists, people in the left and the right tend to believe what their group or their clout is speaking to them. They don't form their opinions, and in private universities, what happens is people are more privileged than the others. So when you have a certain sense of privilege, you read a lot of texts. And I think which the left has done beautifully, which right hasn't yet, is that they have very well infiltrated into the circles of the influentials, into the circles of the intellectuals. So people of the left, they know that the biggest power they have, which is there in the Soviet texts also. If you read, there are a lot of books on how KGB used to infiltrate. Very nice. There was also this Mitrokin Archive, which is another very amazing book on it. So when you read about how KGB used to infiltrate, it didn't used to have money like the Americans. So what it used to infiltrate is through the education. You give them texts, you give them opinions, you only show them one side of the coin and then make them believe that. That is what the modern left is also doing. It is making people believe what it wants them to believe. As simple as that. So what happens in private universities, specifically speaking, even in public university, is that people who are smart, they tend to read the texts which are given by certain sources of individuals who are already identifying themselves through the left, which is a chain reaction, which is happening since a lot of time. We already know how there are already a lot of documents on how the Soviets and the Chinese used to infiltrate our circles using education and go into, and how it fueled the Naxal movement. There's a lot of text on it. I don't want to talk about it, but it is true. It is still happening. People get educated. They only read one side of the story. They get to think that, and then after they go out from the university into the real world, they start to read about it. Then they tend to form an opinion. Then what happens is either their opinion, which is their previous opinion, be it right or left, it becomes more solidified, or they change it. As simple as that. Because at that time they are making their opinion. I want, as an individual who's very much interested in politics and has, served in a very small sort of representative body in our university, is that people form their opinions before, they do anything. They should, read about everything before forming an opinion. They should criticize the government. They should support the government. They should do everything in their right. But they should form an opinion on their own, not just on one particular text or one particular Instagram post by one particular page, and then, just repost it without thinking that, there's another side of the coin also. Yes.
Archit, do you have a final question?
No, not as such.
Okay, so I just have one final question for you. ये सवाल मैं हिंदी में कोशिश करूंगा पूरा बोलने की कि आपको क्या लगता है कि इस देश का भविष्य क्या है, कि क्या हम आज यहाँ पर बोल सकते हैं कि भारत बहुत आगे जाएगा, क्योंकि मेरी तो यही उम्मीद है, हम सबकी यही उम्मीद है। तो युवाओं का काफी हाथ होगा इसमें, इस पूरे जर्नी में। तो आपको क्या लगता है इस बारे में?
आई थिंक भारत का भविष्य बहुत उज्जवल है, पहली बात। दूसरी बात, वी आर द यंगेस्ट नेशन in terms of population. We have the majority of our population is in their prime, in their youth, and that is a very, very good thing. We have a very good working class population. We have a very nice population which is working, and working for the betterment of the country. I feel that India's future has a lot in store with it. I think we are now becoming a very mature democracy. I think we are now becoming a place where people can form their opinions. We are now becoming, more than a one-party political system, which has happened in the past. We are forming opinions. We are seeing how regional parties are becoming stronger. We are also seeing how national parties are becoming stronger. We are also seeing more participation of individuals. We are seeing more information coming out. So I think when it comes to the future of the country, it is very bright. There is no doubt about it. We have to focus. We have a lot of problems still. I'm not denying that. We have a lot of problems which we have to face. We have to, solve. There's a very long way to becoming a developed economy till now. But I feel that, if we take the right steps, and we are, as more and more people are getting involved, we are making the right steps. If we take more right steps, if we more initiate our participation more, I think we can do much better, and we will one day, complete the term Mera Bharat Mahan, which it is already, but everybody will be saying it proudly when it goes anywhere.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
on that note, thank you for joining us, everybody. Thank you, Madhav, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Congratulations on getting into Warwick. I hope you have a wonderful time studying there. Madhav, do you have any final remarks?
No final remarks as such, but I want to thank all of you for being here for this episode on the fifth paradigm. Thank you so much, Madhav, for joining us and sharing your views on this very important topic, an upcoming topic in the country today. So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. I feel that everybody should support your channel. Everybody should support Patriot Review and the fifth paradigm. It is absolutely wonderful. I still remember when Archit came to me and told me, I'm, starting this thing. I was so proud. I was like, very nice. I'm very happy that, people from our school are doing such initiatives, and Madhav, you also. It's been an absolute pleasure. Avirat also is fantastic. I just hope that you guys continue it and it reaches much more heights than it already has.
Jai Hind, everybody.
If it wasn't for Madhav, I wouldn't have, hired these people. I wouldn't have never approached Avirat. So he is the inspiration behind this whole project, and I hope we make him proud one day. So,
thank you, Madhav. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
it's all you guys. It's all you. No. It's all you. Chalo. Have a very good day.
Thank you.